So you're sick of all those family films around the holidays that just seem generic and just cookie cutter and you've seen it before. Well, finally we got something cool and refreshing and kind of meaningful. Let's talk about Slumberland. What up, guys? Bobo here with BrassReel Movie Reviews. Thanks for coming back for some more popcorns. So Anshul and I saw a screening of Slumberland the other night, and hey, I gotta tell you what, it was way better than I was expecting it to be. I kind of didn't know what to expect because I hadn't seen any trailers at all. I just went in blind. But I did know that it was a family film and it was based off of Little Nemo, which was in the Slumberland stories by Winsor McCay. But even then, I didn't know what those stories were about. So one of the problems for me with all these family films that come out around the holidays or pre-Christmas and things like that, where they're trying to get you geared up, is they're all cookie cutter and generic these days. They all just seem to do the same little trendy things to where it doesn't seem heartwarming, it doesn't seem touching, it seems annoying. But this movie wasn't like that. This movie not only was heartwarming and had a lot of like moral undertones to it, but it was also pretty original. And I really enjoyed Jason Momoa in this. I've always kind of liked Jason Momoa. There's not really a whole lot I don't like him in. Some people don't really care for him all the time, and you know, some people dog on Aquaman. Well, while I'm talking about Momoa, let's see what Anshul has to say.
Yo, Bobo, thanks for the transition. Look, we all love Jason Momoa, but outside of the memes and the cool beard, the only good things he's been in are Game of Thrones and Lisa Bonet, especially Lisa Bonet. Now, some of you may have liked the movie where Jason Momoa played the orphan of the lighthouse keeper that had the impressive special effects, but this is not that movie. In this movie, he plays the friend of the orphan lighthouse keeper in a movie with impressive special effects. How was that for a full circle film? Shameless plug! Slumberland is the latest Netflix movie that will anger people by gender swapping a main character that they pretend to care about. Let's be real. If I asked you guys about Little Nemo, you'd assume I was talking about the Disney character. But go on with your rants about woke Hollywood.
It's directed by Francis Lawrence, who also directed Hunger Games Catching Fire, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. And he's also doing an upcoming prequel movie for the Hunger Games. So he kind of knew what he was doing, taking on a grandiose, fantasy-filled movie like this. And it was. It felt very fantasy-filled. And I like that. As an adult, I still like to go on this journey to tap into my inner child, to feel like a kid in the theater again. I like Pixar movies. Hell, Incredibles is one of my favorite movies of all time. These days, they're making so many of these type of movies that you don't get the feels you're going for. You know, like in Home Alone, when you get a little emotional. This movie does that. This movie has those moments because it's a father-daughter story or a parent-child story. And the girl starring opposite of Jason Momoa is Marlo Barkley, and she's fantastic. She does a really good job at some emotional scenes. The whole premise is that her dad, Kyle Chandler, they live in a lighthouse and something goes awry and she loses her father. It's very realistic, but the whole movie is truly about her processing how to deal with this. And if you've ever been through anything like this, you've ever lost a loved one that's pretty hard to deal with. You know, your life changes. So the whole thing is that she has to go stay with her dad's estranged brother in the city, who's played by Chris O'Dowd. And while she's dealing with this grief and loss of her father, the way she tries to connect with her dad is that she starts to have dreams about him. So all she wants to do is just go to sleep so she can dream and get back with her dad. And it's really heartbreaking when you watch it. This poor girl, you're just like, aw, especially if you've lost someone. But within those dreams, we get this awesome sort of fantasy world, and that's where Jason Momoa comes in as the character Flip. Really endearing. I liked him a lot, and like Anshul said, he thinks this is the best role that he's done. This and Drago from Game of Thrones.
Especially Lisa Bonet.
It's kind of like Pan's Labyrinth for kids. It feels like Pan's Labyrinth and sort of like the Coraline vibe had a baby, and it works. I got really emotional in the movie. There are plenty of times where I was just like, damn, get me choked up. And while they're on this huge adventure through Slumberland, all these characters and things come their way. I mean, you're already loving Jason Momoa as Flip. I mean, he does these just crazy things like eats flies with chopsticks. And the design of him is just super weird and not really explainable because that's how dreams are. Dreams, you can't really explain stuff. They're just in there. And I'm not going to get too far into their whole lore of dreams in this, but it is pretty cool the way they address it. You know, everybody's got their way they address dreams in fictional movies, and in this one, it works. It's pretty cool. It's original. But there's this little Asian kid in there that's driving this truck, and I think his name is Lexton Handspiker. I think that's the kid, but every time I saw that kid, he put the biggest smile on my face, and I just want to gobble him up. He was awesome. Anshul, did this movie move you like it moved me?
Let me tell you, I was a little kid, I would love the hell out of this movie. Yeah, it's green screen, but it's dope AF, as the kids say. Now the story is good enough. Listen, it gets you from point A to point B. But most of all, it encapsulates what it means to be a child with a healthy imagination. Sure, there are no real stakes, there's not even a real villain, but it's still fun.
And there's fun little things like this stuffed pig that she carries around that's adorable. There's this really funny reoccurring Canadian joke, which I'm not Canadian, but I found really funny. But it balances the humor and the fantasy and the heartfelt stuff the entire way through. It really does a good job of it. It honestly felt like if this was like CG, it could have been a Pixar film. That's how much I really liked the premise. Ultimately, it was just a nice, fun, heartwarming tale about what it's like to deal with loss, how you process that grief, and making the choice to love what's right in front of you. For a fun family film that had a message to get across, I give Slumberland an A-. Anshul, what do you give it?
Guys, I'm gonna say this movie is really decent, especially if you're a kid or if you have kids. I'd call it a modern, never-ending story. Let us know what you think. Also, it's nice to watch a movie that doesn't rely on nostalgia bait or million cameos, with the exception of the Kevin Smith DVD collection that appears in the garbage truck where it belongs. Bobble, back to you.
Well, that'll do it for this review, guys. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns.
I'm driving my truck.
Drive your truck faster, sir.